about to leave, already packing. Come with me, I'm not really asking. We'll get away to a place where we don't know. About to see the world in action, what we can be, life with no distractions. We'll get away, this is what we waited for. Not looking back, eyes on the freeway, Bonnie and Clyde, a classic cliche. We're on the run, this is what we waited for. Take my hand, we'll make it somehow. We can't miss out. I'm done living life with the lights up, dive with my own doubts. Be free.
Good morning, everyone. It's Jim here at GTD HQ, and welcome to our latest A-Level Economics live revision blast. We've got a micro core topics session for you today. We're in a celebratory mood because this is our 21st live session of 2021, and so we asked the audience last week, who would you most like to come back and present this 21st live revision blast? And unfortunately, Ollie, Pete and Isabel aren't available this morning. So we have got instead Jeff, top right, Kathy shaking her head, bottom right, and Lisa, bottom left. Good morning, team.
Good morning.
Feeling motivated and energised after that very positive introduction, I can tell.
Indeed.
Yeah, big build-up. Thanks for that. Appreciate it, as always.
Yeah. So who wants to lead off and give us a flavour? Massive numbers joining us live, as I can see on the screen here. Who wants to give us a flavour for what we're going to cover in the next 30 minutes or so?
Well, I'll start. I'm your stunt double, Jim, so it's obviously a job for me. We've got a range of activities. We've got 2 new activities, which hopefully, if the production assistant get it right this time, will be quite exciting. Always good to post your answers into the chat window, so that we can see what the feedback is on each question and see how people are doing. Got lots of regulars here. We know them and they're amazing. See who can beat them in the questions we got today. They all focus on microeconomics. So let's make a start with some multiple choice questions. Here we go. So here's our first multiple choice question, and I'll do 3 with you to kick us off. Let's see if we can make a great start. Question number 1: which of the following sectors is most likely to be dynamically efficient? Important concept. Which one of the following sectors is most likely to be dynamically efficient? Is it food processing, motor vehicle repair, pharmaceuticals, or fast food restaurants? Dynamic efficiency, of course, links closely to innovation. If you've been studying your market structures, what do we think? What do we think on this one? So it looks like people have mainly chosen C on this one. Let's have a look at the answer, please. And the answer's coming up, and it is indeed C. Yeah, I think good example of pharmaceuticals, hugely in the news at the moment, obviously with the vaccinations and the therapeutics being devised to combat COVID. Good example, I think, there of a contestable oligopoly. So interestingly, 3 of the firms that have developed the vaccines, including Moderna, AstraZeneca, they have not yet developed vaccines in the past, and 3 big pharmaceutical companies, including Merck, have not yet brought a vaccine to market. So probably that's the most likely example of dynamic efficiency. It's C. Let's move on to question number 2. Which type of efficiency would a public welfare-seeking broadcaster achieve if successful? Is it A, allocative, B, productive, C, dynamic, or D, static efficiency? What do we think? A public welfare-seeking broadcaster, what type of efficiency would they achieve if successful? Answers coming through, which is always great to see. Thank you for those. We always appreciate them. And let's have a look at the answers, please, Jim, if you can reveal them. Yes, good. Some terrific responses there. The answer is indeed allocative efficiency. You'd expect a public welfare-seeking broadcaster to be pricing in terms of perhaps the fee they charge close to marginal cost of supply. They're not looking like a streamed broadcaster charging monopoly prices to make supernormal profit. They were probably close to marginal cost. And here's the third of our opening 3 questions. Allocative efficiency is achieved where producer and consumer surplus are maximized, which is correct. Allocative efficiency can also be said to be achieved when what condition is achieved? A, B, C, or D? Again, on question 3, have a go at this one. Type your answer into chat if you will, please. There's another condition that you need to know for allocative efficiency. So which one of those is it? The answers are coming through already. A few people saying C. But we've got a range of opinions coming through. We've got D, we've got B coming through. Okay, Jim, can you please reveal the answer to this question? And the answer is D. The answer is D. Now, this is quite important. So where marginal social benefit equals marginal social cost is sometimes known as the social optimum or the social equilibrium. It's essentially where the social demand curve meets the social supply curve. And it's a condition which maximizes community surplus, consumer producer surplus added together. Really important idea. If you get a question, for example, on externalities, where marginal social benefit meets marginal social cost is essentially the condition for allocative efficiency in a world of externalities. Well done on the first 3 questions. I'm going to hand over to Lisa for the next activity.
Thank you, Jeff. Welcome, everybody. And as you can see, we are in the realm of equations now. This section of microeconomics is all about equations. So we've got a couple up here on the slide, and you've got to decide whether or not they are the right way round. So is it true that where marginal revenue equals 0, we've got sales maximization? And is it true where average cost equals average revenue, that is revenue maximization? And I've got answers coming through thick and fast. And in fact, everyone is saying that they need to be swapped round. So Jim, can you confirm that that is indeed the case? Absolutely spot on, everybody. So indeed, revenue maximization, that's where price times quantity is at its greatest value, occurs when marginal revenue equals 0. Remember, the marginal revenue curve slopes downwards from left to right. All the while it's positive, total revenue is rising. You may well be familiar with drawing a bell-shaped total revenue curve, and total revenue is maximized at the top, and that equates to where marginal revenue equals 0. Now, sales maximization is about shifting as many units as you possibly can. However, if we look very carefully at the equation for sales maximization, we're saying it's where average cost equals average revenue. Now, I wonder if we can go a bit off piste. Can anybody in the chat tell me another way of describing where average cost equals average revenue? What's going on when average cost equals average revenue? What do we describe it as? I've seen they're brilliant. Someone's put normal profits. Another term we might use for where average cost equals average revenue. Some of you might be familiar with break-even point, where we're earning normal profit, we're breaking even. So what we're actually saying there is we want to shift as many units as we possibly can while breaking even. So sales max, if we're using the equation average cost equals average revenue, is also with the proviso of breaking even. That's fantastic answers there. Let's go on to the next slide, please, Jim. Okay, again, have we matched these up correctly? Output where allocative efficiency is achieved is where average cost is minimized. Output where productive efficiency is achieved is where price equals marginal cost. So do we think they're the right way around, or do we want to swap them? And again, we've got answers coming in thick and fast, and it is absolutely unanimous that we should swap them round. So will you do that for us, Jim? Perfect. Excellent. So an important point to think about here, these two are described as static efficiencies. You can point to them on a graph, okay, which isn't the case with dynamic efficiencies. So here, when we draw our cost curves and put our average revenue curves on, that's when we can identify these points. As Jeff was saying earlier, when we talk about allocative efficiency, it's where price equals marginal cost. In other words, consumers are paying exactly the price they want to pay for the quantity demanded. So it's a really interesting idea. Allocative efficiency is really what consumers want. Whereas we're looking at productive efficiency. That's the lowest point on the average cost curve. The equation for that, can anyone tell me the equation for productive efficiency? In the chat room, what equation would you use for productive efficiency? Lowest point on the average cost curve. How would we put that as an equation? What would we use? We could talk about the relationship between marginal cost and average cost. When we've got, absolutely brilliant, we've got that coming through now. So spot on. Rebecca, Suhata are on fire this morning. Where average cost equals marginal cost, that is productive efficiency. Absolutely brilliant, everyone. So I'm going to hand back to Kathy now for the bubble quiz.
Right, thanks so much, Lisa. Hello, everyone. I've got a couple of bubble quiz questions to start off with. So, Jim, can we have the first one, please? Now, I'm imagining most of you are familiar with bubble quiz questions, but in case you are not, what you need to do here is to identify the correct answers. So there might just be one, it might be all of them, or somewhere in between. So first question, which of these are examples of X inefficiency? So which of these are examples of X inefficiency? What I'd like you to do, and I can see people are already doing this, put on the chat what you think the correct answers are, please. So far I can see A, B and D coming through. Let's see whether everyone agrees with that or whether we've got some different views. If you're, please add your answers to the chat, even if you're not absolutely super sure. It's really important to give it a go. Somebody's coming in thinking all of them. Somebody A, C and D. Seems to be quite a lot of confidence here around A and D. Just going to give you a couple of seconds more. And Jim, would you reveal the answers for us, please? There we go. So the correct answers are A, C, and D. So X, inefficiency, not required by all the boards, but a super useful concept to know nonetheless. So this is when a firm is paying costs that are above its average total cost curve. And a lot of students seem to think that when they draw the average total cost curve, that is the cost that a firm will be paying, but actually it just represents the lowest level that they could be paying at varying levels of output. In order to be on this ATC curve, first of all, they've got to be technically efficient. So the firm's got to be combining together inputs in the best possible way to produce maximum output, and then they've got to pay the lowest possible price for each of these inputs. So that's a lot of time and effort, and a firm isn't going to do that if there's no competition there. Just for completeness, B is wrong here. It's incorrect because that doesn't have anything at all to do with costs. Jim, could we have the second of the bubble quiz questions then, please? The same idea again, the correct answers on the chat just as soon as you think you know it. Which of these are conditions that are required for a market to have a high level of contestability? Which of these are conditions required for a market to have a high level of contestability? Just going to make a comment about A, because I tried this with my students yesterday and a couple of them didn't know what churn meant. So high rates of customer churn mean that really there's no brand loyalty there, that customers are happy to switch between different firms. Can see ABD, or I can see someone's just asked what churn meant, so hopefully you know that now. Couple of people saying all of them are correct, so please do add your answers to the chat. It's really good to see lots of these coming in now. Just a couple of seconds more, just try and get your answers on the chat. Jim, would you like to tell us the correct answers, please? Well, in fact, all of these are correct. They are all conditions required for a market to have a high level of contestability. One of the ones on here probably worthy of comment is D. So when we talk about contestable markets, there's quite a big emphasis on sunk costs. So money you would lose when you exit a market. But actually, it's just as important that there aren't entry barriers. Remember, there needs to be very low entry barriers for this hit and run entry to take place. Something it's really important to remember is that pure contestability is actually as unlikely as perfect competition. It's a really useful thing, contestability, to know about, really useful to know and understand these assumptions so that you can critique them in your evaluation. Right, Jim, can we move on to the next activity? So I love these as well as the bubble quizzes. This is another relatively new one, the on balance activities. And what we're going to ask you to do is to give 2 advantages of introducing a minimum price per unit of alcohol. In a minute, we're going to move on to the disadvantages, but I'd like you to start, please, with 2 advantages. So Jeff saying on the chat, I'll drink to that. Hopefully not at this time in the morning. So 2 advantages, first of all, the minimum price per unit of alcohol. Really quite a common exam question, this one. I'm not seeing much on the chat yet. It's going to take a while, I think, to type some answers in. Even if you want to add just one of them, let's see if we can get something on the chat. There we go. Should reduce consumption and negative externalities of consumption. Yes, that's a really good answer. Yes, lots of references to the negative externalities, sometimes associated with alcohol. Yep, lots of people getting this should reduce demand. So I'm going to give you just a couple of moments more. Okay, Jim, would you like to give us our 2 advantages? So just coming through now, these are the 2 that we have got here at Tutor to You. So first of all, there's lots of you have got, this should reduce consumption of alcohol and therefore reduce the social costs associated with it. Now, another one, that it should encourage people to drink in pubs rather than buy from supermarkets. And at the moment, that's quite an important consideration. I can see on the chat we've got some other ideas coming in. Someone saying it should discourage younger drinkers as well. So lots of things that you could have put here. Now, Jim, can we move on to the disadvantages now? So let's have added to the chat then, please, what you think some of the disadvantages of a minimum price per unit of alcohol might be. Don't need to have 2 on the chat. If you've just got 1, then add that. And let's see what people are saying. Right, so comments here about it perhaps being regressive, affecting those on lower incomes. Or we've got someone talking here about the elasticity of demand and how that affects things. A reference here to it might lead to illegal consumption. Some really, really good answers coming in. Jim, could we have our 2 answers, please? Okay, so the first one then, and people were mentioning this on the chat. It's highly likely that demand for alcohol is price inelastic. So actually, any reduction we see in terms of consumption could be minimal. Another disadvantage is it could lead to reduction in tax revenue as well. Although if demand is very price inelastic, that should be fairly minimal. One of the other things, I can see people still talking about black markets, illegal consumption. It's possible that you will get some unintended consequences here as well. So a really good job here, everyone. I'm going to hand back over to Lisa now to a brand new, really exciting activity.
Thank you, Kathy. Well, we are now in the nitty-gritty of numbers for microeconomics. And in front of us, we've got a table with information about revenue and costs. And we've got to fill in the gaps. And we've got numbers available below to do so. So let's go through a step at a time. Let's start by looking at what A might be. So total revenue is price times quantity. I wonder if some of you might be able to put in the chat what you think A might be. What is the answer to A? And if you can do that, you can incredibly easily do B. So can you put next to A the number you're thinking about, and perhaps also B? Very straightforward, because you've got the answers below, and I can see already everybody is all over it in terms of getting A. Most of you are saying for A, it's 240, and for B, it's 80. That is absolutely spot on. The price here is the same for every unit sold. So I wonder if you might tell me what market structure this might be if we're able to sell every unit at the same price. What market structure might this be? Can anybody put that in the chat room? When we talk about market structures, we're talking about monopoly, oligopoly, monopolistic competition, perfect competition. And that's absolutely brilliant. I can see people, Rebecca and Emma and Sahata again, I've put perfect competition in the chat. That's absolutely spot on. In perfect competition, the demand curve facing the firms, perfectly elastic. We can sell as many units as we want at the prevailing price. Now, the use of the word perfect tells you that it doesn't exist. If perfect is used in economics, a bit like in life, if something is perfect, you can be sure it doesn't exist. Perfect competition doesn't exist in the same way as your perfect life partner doesn't exist. Sorry to depress you so early on a Tuesday morning. Okay, let's go on to the second, C and D. Little bit trickier here. C and D, then we've got to work out the total profit. So the total profit is going to be total revenue minus total costs. So let's have a look at what we think that's going to be. I can already see the right answer coming through in the chat. Ursula's gone with 70. Okay. Any more people agreeing with Ursula? Is it 70, do we think? The right answer is 70. It's 240, which is the total revenue, minus the total cost, which gives us 70. Now, the last bit, D, is perhaps the trickiest bit. Marginal profit refers to the extra profit generated when we go from producing 2 to 3 units. So what's the marginal profit going to be? Let's have a look here. We know that profit is going to rise from 25 to 70. So the difference is going to be 45. And I cannot tell you how many right answers are coming in. So Jim, can you confirm that our knowledge is absolutely spot on? Well done, everybody. Loads and loads of 100% there. So let's have a look at the next slide, where we're going to do a very similar exercise. This time we're thinking a little bit more about costs. So once again, average revenue is constant. So we're suggesting the market structure is going to be perfect competition. So let's have a look at this particular slide. Now we've got fixed costs of 120. So I wonder if anybody might be able to identify which time period we're in if we've got fixed costs. Can someone put that in the chat for me? What time period must we be in if we've got fixed costs? Is it the short run or is it the long run? What do we think? Can we have a few answers there? What are we talking about? Are we in the short run or the long run if we've got fixed costs? And again, loads and loads of correct answers coming through. It is indeed the short run. The short run defined as when at least one factor of production is fixed. So here we go. We've got lots and lots of information we can pull out from this particular table. So let's have a go and see if we can do A. So we know that fixed costs are going to be the same throughout. So we can use our detective skills and look at what the variable costs are when we produce 1 unit of output. And you can see that it is actually 110. So if it is 110 is the variable cost for a unit, what is A going to be? Let's have a look in the chat. And I can see lots of people have established that it is indeed. They've got 450 is an answer that most people are choosing. That's true because we know that relationship between average and average cost. It's 110 per unit. Add that to the fixed cost, and we're going to get 450. What you will notice here, of course, is that we're suggesting that the variable cost here doesn't change. It's constant for every extra unit we produce. We don't usually draw our average cost curves like that. We suggest that they change. So again, a piece of information to pull out from this graph. Now let's have a look at the easier ones here, which is clearly total revenue. So can someone tell me what total revenue will be when we're only selling one unit? What's total revenue going to be? So total revenue is price times quantity. Average revenue is another name for that is the price. And we're getting lots and lots of correct answers coming in here saying that that will be 400. And it's a very easy hop to telling me what total revenue will be when there are 2 units sold. So what will D be in this case? So with 2 units being sold, what will that be? What do we think? That's absolutely brilliant. So everyone's getting that. Brilliant answers. Can you confirm for us, Jim, that we are all absolutely superb in terms of our knowledge? And indeed we are. That's absolutely brilliant work, everybody. Being able to manipulate these numbers, they crop up in multiple choice questions and short answer questions. So the more practice you get at filling these tables in, the better, because the quicker you can do these numeracy questions, the quicker you can get onto the next one, and the time pressure is much reduced. That's absolutely brilliant, everybody. And I'm now going to pass on to Kathy.
Thanks so much. I love that broken table activity. Absolutely brilliant and well done, everybody. Right, I've got a chain of analysis activity for you. So in a moment, we're going to give you a series of sentences, and what you need to do is to rearrange them to form a chain of analysis. So Jim's put them up on the screen. Now, the first thing I should say is that the red border is around what is the first sentence. So we've given that to you. So what you need to do is to sort the following 4 into the correct order, please. So we need the numbers in the order in which you think they need to appear on the chat as soon as you think you know them. Even if you can't do them all, do what you can. Jeff's there, I can just see, setting a challenge. Who can get the correct order first? So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4 coming in. Somebody thinking 4, 1, 2, 3. Somebody else thinking 4, 1, 2, 3. Oh, and again, 4, 2, 3, 1 this time. So just give you a few moments more. So we've listened to what you were saying, what your feedback was. There's slightly fewer words this time in each of these sentences. Hopefully that should make it a little bit easier for you. Lots and lots and lots of answers coming in now. Some disagreement, but not loads. Jim, could you give us the correct answer, please? Right, there we are. 4, 1, 2, 3. So I could see a couple of people on the screen getting that right. So this question then is all about the imposition of an indirect tax on suppliers who use sugar. Now, the first thing this is going to do is shift the supply curve upwards because it increases the cost of supply. So hugely important to remember that you need to show an indirect tax on the supply curve. Get that wrong, you're about to get into a whole heap of trouble with any analysis that follows. Now, what this is going to mean is that profit maximizing firms will reduce output because their costs of production have gone up, and they're going to try and pass on some of this extra tax to consumers. So the amount they do succeed in passing on to consumers is called the incidence of the tax that falls on consumers. Now, this high price, it's going to lead to a contraction of demand. And as a result of this, there's likely to be a fall in profit, but that does depend on the PED. But most of the tax, especially for a good like this, something with sugar in it may well have a sort of slightly addictive quality to it. Most of the tax is going to be passed on to the consumer. So what you've got here is a really good example of how to write a chain of analysis. So it's got some really good connective phrases in it. If you look at the one labeled 1 in the middle, as a result. So really nice connective phrase. And in the last one here, you've got it depends on. So really good example of how you need to write in order to get those top marks that I know you all want. That's it from me. I'm going to hand over to Jeff now for the now legendary Evalue Wheel.
What an exciting moment, Kathy. Thank you very much indeed. Got 2 more activities to finish with today. Let's have a go at Evalue Wheel. We're hoping that our production system will get it right this time. So you're about to see a line of argument that a student has made as part of an answer to an essay question. The random, and I stress the word here, random, the random Evalue Wheel will select a possible line of evaluation for you to add to the response. So here we go. Let's move on to the line of argument the students made. Let me read it out to you. Encouraging girls to study STEM subjects. Now, I thought that was sociology, theology, economics, and music, but apparently it's not. Encouraging girls to study STEM subjects in post-16 education will help reduce income inequality in the UK. Okay, so if we spin the wheel, please, Jim. The Evalue Wheel now is spinning, as you can see on the live display board here. What will it come at? It's chosen efficiency. So can you please type into the chat window, what is the impact on efficiency? Can you think of an evaluative comment or phrase? Productive, allocative, static, dynamic. Can you evaluate the impact, or can you evaluate that statement in the context of efficiency? Encouraging girls to study STEM subjects will help reduce income inequality in the UK. Can you evaluate using an economic efficiency concept? Emma's gone in with concepts of human capital and dynamic efficiency, which is quite interesting. And by the way, I love that concept of human capital. It's a really, really key idea you can bring into lots of different answers. What else could we include on an evaluation? Which efficiency concepts could we bring in if we get more girls studying, taking STEM subjects beyond 16 to A-level and to university? What else can we come up with? Okay, a few answers coming through. Jim, can we see what a possible answer would be to this question? And one answer is indeed to talk about dynamic efficiency. So a workforce with more valuable skills should also help to improve long-term dynamic efficiency. Crucial point here is to bring in dynamic efficiency, innovation, research and development, all that kind of stuff, but crucially to talk about the long-term consequences of this kind of strategy. This would be a really good example, by the way, of a microeconomic supply-side policy, which over time can have quite a big impact on a country's economic competitiveness. There we go, superb answer. Let's finish with our favorite activity, which is the higher or lower game. And I am going to ask Kathy and maybe Lisa if they want to join in to have a go to take on team economics. Are you up for the challenge, Kathy and Lisa?
Cool.
Yes, up for the challenge.
Yeah.
Oh, that is great. Great to hear. Well, okay, we're going to look at something called the Index of Economic Freedom. If you want a bit of background on it, it's published by the Heritage Foundation. It covers things like property rights, financial freedom, business freedom, labour market flexibility, all that kind of stuff. And we're looking for the countries with the highest ranking or score for the index number. The UK figure, are we getting the figure for the UK? What's coming through here? So the UK appears as a 78.4. By the way, the top score you can get is 100, a country which is totally free in that sense. Okay, so we've got 4 countries to finish with. Does Taiwan have a higher or lower score on the index of economic freedom? What do we think, Team Economics? Post the answer in chat. What do we think, Kathy and Lisa?
I think that might be higher. That's a super dynamic country, isn't it? I think that might possibly be higher.
So Kathy's going higher.
I think I agree. They're very open to trade. The big exporting country. A lot of their GDP is made of exports, which suggests that they are very much outward looking.
Taiwan, known as a dynamic globalizer. Are Kathy and Lisa right? Let's look at the answer on the laser display scoreboard. And it is 78.6. They're marginally higher than the UK. Okay, well done. United States of America, higher or lower, what do we think, than Taiwan? Back to my team.
I'm going to go lower. Not by much, I don't think, but a bit lower, maybe.
Yeah, I'm going to appear to be a bit of a sheep and agree that I can't imagine it's going to get a lot higher than Taiwan, although I may be proved wrong. So I think, yeah, maybe a little lower.
Of course, a lot of students think that the United States is an example of a free market economy. No, there's no such thing as a free market economy, I suppose, if you take Ha-Jun Chang's view. Let's have a look at the answer, Jim, coming up on the display. Oh, it's lower. Well done. 74.8. The United States actually appears lower than both Taiwan and the UK. 2 to go. Finland, the good people of Finland. Is it higher or lower than the United States of America? What do we think?
Lisa, do you want to go first?
Yes, then I don't have to be a sheep. Indeed, I'm going to go lower because I think it's an economy that has quite high levels of government intervention with a lot of redistributive activity. So I'm going to go for lower.
Okay.
I'm going to go higher because I think although there's lots of redistributive activity, I think that actually results in better outcomes.
Really interesting. So, yeah, okay. So thanks, Kathy. Oscar's gone higher. Kavisha's gone higher. Rebecca's gone higher. Sujata's gone higher. John has gone neither high nor low. He just says that Finland's the happiest place in the world. John, that's not the purpose of the game. Anyway, I thought Yorkshire was the happiest place in the world. Asif has gone lower. I don't know the answer to this question. I think it's lower. Let's find out. Oh, it's okay. It's higher than the States. So I meant lower than the UK, but it is higher than the United States. So it's higher. Well done. Team Economics are absolutely smashing this. Right, one last question, or one last country, Japan. Is it higher or lower than Finland in terms of the index of economic freedoms? What do we think? Type your answers into chat, please. What do we think, Kathy?
Do you want me to go first?
It's a tricky one. I know it's an economy that has had lots of sort of barriers to, the efficient working of markets. So I'm going to go for lower.
Yeah, I agree. I feel moderately confident in saying lower here.
And it looks as if the balance of opinion amongst an amazing team of students on the live chat is lower. I would say probably 70-30 saying lower. 1 or 2 people saying lower than Finland, says Morgan. Obviously, okay, what do we think? Let's have the answer, please, Jim. Oh, it is indeed. And in fact, it's the lowest of the 5 countries. So well done, Japan. Actually, not necessarily scoring that well on economic freedom. I must say, though, that the index itself is highly subjective. It's basically an index championed by free market fundamentalists, but they're entitled to their own index. Other indices are available. Well done. Well done, everybody. Fantastic answers there. And amazing responses, covering a lot of micro ground here, Jim.
Yeah, great stuff. Many thanks to Jeff and Kathy and Lisa for that fantastic session, and how nice it was to finish with Finland. That was a great way to finish our 21st live session. If you found it useful, if you enjoyed it, don't forget to give us a thumbs up on YouTube to make the team particularly happy today, but also to help the YouTube algorithm. It's a good kind of algorithm to help YouTube find this session and suggest it to other A-level economics students, either now or in the months and years ahead. Don't forget, if you want to go through any of these again and or download all the slides from this and the previous 20 sessions, go to tutor2.net/live and then use the filter to go A-level economics, and you'll see all 21 sessions, including looking at the clock. Today's session will be available now to download if you want to do that. Some great revision resources in there, particularly around the specialist topics that Lisa and Kathy and Jeff and the team have done in previous weeks. We are back on Thursday morning with a macro topic mix. Hopefully you can join us for that. But for now, we'll see you later.
Take care, everybody.
Bye, everyone. Fantastic answers.
Brilliant job. Brilliant.
Bye.